Cheers, everyone. Thanks for joining me. These last few days in this Russia-Ukraine conflict have been absolutely insane. There was this long talk about this Kherson offensive. The people in Russia and the Russia blogosphere, they kind of mocked it. It seemed to get started and then fizzle out. And then all of a sudden, we have this bum rush and we see Russian personnel fleeing back, abandoning their lines, abandoning important cities. And it's really thrown a wrench at this entire thing here, especially if you're coming from the Russian perspective. And once again, this is why when you're trying to evaluate a war, you have to be careful because it's really hard to actually figure out what the hell is going on. And for the first, 6 months or so, I guess we're 6 months in now, it seemed pretty piecemeal that the Russians were making slow progress with their artillery, basically shredding everything in front of it and just sort of creeping westward. And then all of a sudden we have this. And going back and looking over the Russia sites that are pro-Russia, I've seen a few things from their side that are kind of interesting. And they're in shambles right now. They're losing their minds. And they, in a nutshell, feel like they've been fooled by the Russian government as far as what the Russian tactics are, what they're trying to accomplish. They simply don't know. And one of the things they've discovered is that the Russian military isn't actually doing that much engagement with Ukraine as far as the infantry is concerned. Most of the frontline fighting is being done by the Wagner group, by the DPR, LPR militia groups in the area, and few actual Russian infantry troops are actually engaging in combat. Secondly, when this huge push went through, there were all these videos released online of Russian convoys and Russian aircraft heading toward the front. That was what was presented. We've sort of found out now that this was all a feign. This was all nonsense. Russia was putting this out to try to fool the Ukrainians into thinking that they were sending reinforcements, when in reality, they were actually retreating. And so that's, again, a whole propaganda effort here to confuse the Ukrainians and to confuse their own side, and confuse Russians who were thinking, great, we're gonna strike back. Oh, wait, that was a lie. Another thing is that it doesn't seem that there was ever a real plan to hold these positions if they were pressed. Now, we were under or not we, but a lot of the Russian supporters were under the impression that they were going to hold this line and refortify it and repel any Ukrainian attacks, when in reality, that seems to be not the plan at all from the beginning. As soon as there was any pressure, they picked up and they just moved off. And so the question now is, from people observing this war, what is the actual Russian plan and Russian strategy? Now, I personally thought that despite the fact that NATO was helping Ukraine, that there was enough firepower on the Russian side for them to essentially do what they wanted. But apparently, that may not be the case. But then again, we don't know what they're actually trying to do. Again, the fog of war thing is a real thing, and we don't really know what their objectives are. It's actually quite fascinating, if it wasn't so sad to see so many people get killed. And my concern has always been this: when one side starts to lose in a bad way, whether it's Ukraine or Russia, what happens as far as escalation? And we've already seen that sort of start with Russia. They, for the first time, have made a major attack on the Ukrainian infrastructure, hitting their power lines and shutting off power for a lot of the country. Does that continue to escalate? So in this moment where Ukraine is euphoric, as well they should be for the progress they've made, and they have sacrificed so much, the question is, and the concern is, what comes next, because Russia still does have a few rounds in the barrel, or rounds in the gun, and they still have something to fall back on as far as changing tactics and escalating to either save face or change tactics to compensate for what just happened here. Will they commit more troops? Will they target more infrastructure? Who knows? And of course, the worst possibility, and I won't predict that this won't happen, I know the danger of doing that, is will they at some point use a tactical nuke? Because you think about it, Putin has so much to risk right now if he loses this conflict. How does Russia justify to their people having this 8-month conflict where they've lost so much, tanks and equipment, and then have nothing to show for it? Can they just walk away at this point? I don't think they can. And a enemy or a group of people who are scared, who are frustrated, who are cornered, that's when they lash out and they go big. Now, I'm not trying to imply that Russia's at any risk of being invaded by Ukraine or that they're somehow this small little victim. They're not. But what they are is embarrassed on the national stage. And even if Putin would like to sort of cease hostilities right now, he has to prove to his people that he's not a fool or an idiot who's been whipped by the former Soviet state, the little brother of Russia and Ukraine. That would be dreadfully embarrassing. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next. And I think over these next few weeks, we're going to find out what we're going to get. Is Russia going to escalate in a big way? Are they going to sort of let this peter out and hold their lines and wait for the fall to come and just sort of cease hostilities? What's going to happen next? I don't know. But this is when things can get very scary and potentially much more deadly. So be careful and pay attention. Well, that's it for now. Again, if you are new to this channel, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.